while the Michigan State one made sense. I think it was like 16 points or whatever favorite, which you would hope with a team that very much underperformed last year that would happen. But against Penn State, which is at their house, 1.5, and then at the Big House, favored by 1. Now that is still notable because I think this is the first time in a little while that Michigan has been favored at all. But I do think it's interesting just how small that point spread is, like so small there.
If I remember correctly, Ohio State was favored by about a touchdown last year, and they were favored by about a touchdown on the road the year before. They didn't play in 2020. Ohio State in 2019 might have been a 10 or 11 point favorite, I would guess. I don't exactly remember the line. I know that when Michigan came to Columbus in 2018, that would have been the last time that Michigan was a favorite.
That was my guess, was either 16 or 18.
About a 4-point favorite in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a few years, and you know, it's finally, I think that people are starting to realize, okay, once was a fluke, and I thought last year was a magical, glorious fluke, and then it was going to go right back to business as usual, and then very last second I changed my prediction because I had Ohio State, like we had talked about this at the start of last season, where you had Michigan 10-2, I had 11-1 with a 3-point loss to the Buckeyes, and then at the very one day before, I changed it to Michigan because I just had that feeling. You know, sometimes you just have it. But now this is here's where we are. So
yeah, so I do think that for the reasons that Ohio State is switching out quarterbacks, and obviously every time that has happened in recent years, it hasn't been an issue. Right. Justin Fields, Dwayne Haskins, CJ Stroud, they all had no experience whatsoever. Right. The closest thing was Dwayne Haskins throwing a couple passes and really bailing out Ohio State against Michigan the previous season when JT Barrett went down in the second half at the Big House, and Dwayne Haskins came in and converted one 3rd and 18 in particular. That was huge in that game. JT Barrett was not the starter at the beginning of 2014. Braxton Miller got hurt in training camp. Right. JT Barrett was thrown into the fire too. So he was a first-time starter, didn't even win the job. And, you know, they took off and eventually won a national championship. So the track record for first-year quarterbacks is pretty good at Ohio State.
Yeah, and for any shortcomings that Ohio State has, the one thing that I don't think anybody can disagree with is that Ryan Day knows how to pick a quarterback, and Brian Hartline knows how to recruit and coach first-round draft pick wide receivers. So I understand that's going to continue to be the case every year that both of them are with the university. But at the Big House, when there's now been 2 consecutive not like 1-point victories, but significant victories. You know, it's interesting. So I think also maybe the Georgia game had something to do with that because of the fact that it was a 1-point loss to Georgia, and some could argue Ohio State probably should have won the game. So maybe that has something to do with it too.
Yeah, and all that said about Ryan Day, and before that, Urban Meyer's ability to groom a first-time quarterback who had zero experience into a star, there's still uncertainty there. It's not automatic. It's still 2 quarterbacks. Now, at least they have the option of 2 quarterbacks who are vying for the position. People believe Kyle McCord, but it could be Devin Brown. But everything else, aside from roster talent, I will put that still on the side of Ohio State. If you just go strictly by the metrics of the recruiting rankings, that's still on Ohio State's side. But Michigan has won the game 2 consecutive years and won it in physical fashion, has been the physically more imposing team. They have also just with this game at the Big House, And then also just with everything that they've got coming back, just the losses are minimal for this team. It's basically
Right.
a really good corner, really good receiver, maybe the best center in college football, and another great offensive lineman. So I'm talking about Green, I'm talking about Hayes and Oluwatimi, and I'm talking about Ronnie Bell, of course. And that's pretty much it. Mike Morris, Mozzie Smith, really good players, but not
Right.
guys that can't be replaced. The productivity is just high coming back. So all logic says that Michigan should be a favorite.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was even more notable is that in this last game, Michigan was forced to almost play Ohio State style football for half of the game, right? Because the run kind of got shut down, and then all of a sudden Cornelius Johnson turned into Odell Beckham Jr. out of nowhere. So I mean that's another thing that I think people weren't really expecting. That they said JJ could. They even said that on air. They said the kid couldn't throw a deep ball, albeit he was pretty wide open, but still. It was something.